We live in a world addicted to movement, constant striving, constant doing, constant pushing toward the next milestone. We're taught from childhood that success is the result of effort, that manifestation is a process of relentless pursuit, that desire must be chased until it finally surrenders to our will. But what if the very system you've been following is the reason your manifestations remain elusive? What if everything you've been conditioned to believe about creating your reality has been fundamentally backwards? In the realm of quantum manifestation, the universe does not bend in response to pressure. It bends in response to alignment, and alignment begins not with doing but with being. Most people attempt to call in abundance while emotionally vibrating in scarcity. They chase love while radiating loneliness. They affirm freedom while embodying fear, and they wonder why nothing changes. The truth is simple and unsettling to the ego. The quantum field responds not to what you want, not to what you visualize, not to the rituals you perform, but to the frequency you consistently emit. Your emotional signature is the real request. Your vibration is the true command. Words mean nothing if your energy contradicts them. Here's the twist almost no one talks about. Manifestation doesn't happen because you ask for something. It happens because you become the version of you who naturally experiences it. The universe isn't persuaded by ambition. It is activated by coherence. When your inner state aligns with your desired timeline, reality reshapes itself to match you, quietly, effortlessly, inevitably. But as long as you broadcast lack, urgency, or self-doubt, you repel the very outcomes you seek. This is why the old approach fails. You can visualize all day, repeat affirmations, script your goals, or create elaborate vision boards. But if your underlying frequency disagrees with your words, the field cannot reflect your intention. Not because it is punishing you, but because it is matching you. Just like a radio cannot tune into a station it refuses to match, you cannot access a reality whose vibration contradicts your internal state. Quantum manifestation is not about force. It's about attunement. It's about tuning yourself to the frequency of the life that already exists for you in the quantum field. The moment you stop chasing your desires and begin embodying the version of you who already has them, everything shifts. The conversation between you and the universe changes. What once felt distant begins to feel near. What once felt blocked begins to open. What once felt impossible begins to move toward you effortlessly. Most people hear phrases like feel as if it's already done or step into the vibration of having, but when they try to embody those states, it feels fake, forced, or impossibly far away. And that's because they misunderstand the paradox. You cannot feel the future while clinging to the emotional habits of the past. You cannot access a higher timeline with the nervous system of your old identity. The ego wants to try its way into alignment, but the quantum field responds only to your state, not your struggle. This is the silent reason so many people fail at manifestation. They are attempting to overlay new desires onto an unchanged frequency. Here's what most don't realize. The state of receiving is the state of allowing, and allowing cannot exist where urgency dominates. The observer effect in quantum mechanics proves that observation shapes outcome, but only when the observation is infused with expectancy rather than desperation. When you observe your reality through the lens of trust, when you assume your manifestation is guaranteed and the wave collapses into form. But when you observe through fear, impatience, or doubt, the wave remains uncollapsed. It stays potential, never becoming physical reality. This isn't about blaming yourself for wanting something too much. It's about understanding how your emotional posture communicates with the universe. Imagine trying to tune a radio to 102.4 FM while staying stuck on 89.1. No matter how much you wish for the right music, you will never hear it unless you change the frequency. Your desires are broadcasting on a higher station than your current vibration, and manifestation happens the moment you tune to the signal, not the moment you chase the outcome. This is where ancient mystics and modern scientists unexpectedly agree. Neville Goddard taught the principle of living from the end, meaning you embody the emotional signature of your fulfilled desire. Joe Dispenza explains it through neuroscience. Your thoughts send the electrical signal, and your emotions send the magnetic one. Together, they create an electromagnetic field that instructs the quantum matrix. Abraham Hicks describes it as entering the vortex, that emotional space where resistance dissolves and receiving becomes effortless. All these teachings converge on one truth. Coherence between mind and emotion is the key, and yet the ego resists simplicity. It prefers techniques, rituals, and repeated effort because effort feels familiar. But the quantum field doesn't respond to force. It responds to frequency. The more you chase, the more you confirm you don't have it. The more you try, the more you reinforce the absence. Real manifestation begins the moment you stop reaching outward and begin aligning inward. Let this sink in. Your desired reality is not created through action. Alone, it emerges through coherence. When your inner state mirrors the timeline you want, the universe has no choice but to reflect it back. If your external reality is a mirror, then the real question becomes, what exactly is it reflecting? Most people approach manifestation like a checklist. Visualize daily, recite affirmations, write intentions 10 times, script your desires every morning. And yes, these can be supportive tools. But tools without alignment become rituals without power. Most people are trying to manipulate the mirror instead of transforming the face reflected in it. They focus on what they're doing instead of who they're being. The quantum field doesn't respond to mechanical repetition. It responds to the vibrational truth beneath your efforts. Being is not performance. It's not pretending to feel wealthy while scrambling to pay bills. It's not declaring I trust the universe while secretly spiraling in anxiety. Being is the deep coherence between your inner emotional state and the reality you wish to experience. Joe Dispenza describes this elegantly. Your thoughts send the electrical signal. Your emotions send the magnetic one. Combined, they create your electromagnetic signature, your vibrational broadcast into the quantum field. And that field, which contains infinite realities, begins reorganizing itself around the signal you're emitting, not the words you're saying. Think of it like this. If you want financial freedom, but you're constantly rehearsing fear, checking your bank account, imagining worst-case scenarios, clinging to survival mode, your electromagnetic broadcast is scarcity. And scarcity attracts more of itself, not because the universe is punishing you, but because it is responding to coherence. You cannot vibrate fear and receive abundance. You cannot vibrate loneliness and receive love. You cannot vibrate doubt and receive miracles. Here's the twist few people understand. The most powerful way to shift your signal is not to chase the future you desire, but to embody it now. To feel the emotional essence of that future as if it's already familiar, not as a lie, not as forced positivity, but as a remembrance, because in the quantum field, that version of you already exists. When you align with it emotionally and mentally, you begin collapsing that potential into your lived reality. This isn't fantasy. Neuroplasticity proves that the brain rewires itself based on repeated mental rehearsal. When you imagine your future with emotional intensity, gratitude, joy, peace, your brain builds neural pathways as if it's already happening. Your body starts to believe before the evidence appears, and when the body believes, the field responds. Neville Goddard understood this long before neuroscience validated it. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, he said. Not pretend, assume, fuse with, become, let. The feeling of your desired timeline saturate your cells until your nervous system calibrates to it. Because manifestation is not about convincing the universe. It's about remembering who you already are in a higher timeline and aligning with that truth. When you do that consistently, the outer world must shift. The field mirrors the frequency of your becoming. There's a moment in the manifestation journey where things begin to shift. Not because the external world has changed, but because you have. It happens subtly at first. Your reactions soften. Your internal dialogue becomes quieter. Your nervous system stops bracing for impact. And suddenly you're no longer trying to attract your future. You're starting to match it. This is the essence of collapsing. The wave, the moment when potential begins moving toward form. Quantum physics tells us that all possible realities exist simultaneously in a state of superposition. Your dream job, your healed relationship, your financial breakthrough, none of these are distant fantasies. They're present potentials, waiting for you to select them through alignment. But this selection isn't mental alone. It requires what the quantum field responds to most: emotionally charged focus. Passive wishing doesn't collapse waves. Embodied knowing does. When you feel your desired future as if it's already real, deep gratitude, peace, excitement, fulfillment, you imprint that version of reality into the quantum field. You're not forcing the universe. You're stabilizing the signal. You're broadcasting a clear frequency that the field must reorganize itself around. But here's why most people struggle. They're living in emotional incoherence. Their mind wants one thing, but their emotions communicate the opposite. They visualize abundance while vibrating anxiety. They affirm love while radiating fear. They script the future while behaving like the past. And in this fragmented state, the field receives mixed messages. It can't collapse the wave because your energy keeps shifting between timelines. Joe Dispenza calls coherence the sweet spot of creation, the moment when the brain and heart synchronize, producing a unified electromagnetic signal strong enough to impact the field. It's not mystical, it's physiological. Emotions like gratitude, trust, and elevated joy release chemicals that shift your entire internal state. Gratitude produces dopamine and oxytocin. Trust releases serotonin. These aren't just feel-good molecules. They change your point of attraction. When you generate these emotions without needing external proof, you stop reacting to life and start informing it. You begin moving from survival to creation, and the universe responds with precision. Neville Goddard's teachings now make perfect sense through this lens. Your assumptions harden into fact, not because of magic, but because your emotional assumptions carry gravitational power. They become the frequency the field mirrors back as experience. This is the real secret. Reality can only reflect the vibration you consistently stabilize. If you keep slipping back into doubt, fear, or impatience, you destabilize the timeline you're trying to access. That's why consistency, not perfection, is everything. Every time you choose trust over fear, presence over urgency, coherence over chaos, you reinforce the quantum imprint of your new reality. And the more consistent that imprint becomes, the more unavoidable its physical expression becomes. You are not passively waiting for your future, you are broadcasting it into existence. You reach a point on this journey where the world stops feeling like a collection of random events and starts revealing itself as a mirror reflecting your inner state with uncanny precision. Patterns you once ignored begin to form a language of their own. Conversations align perfectly with thoughts you had moments earlier. The right opportunities appear just when you're ready to receive them. And slowly you begin to understand that nothing is happening to you. Everything is happening for you. It isn't magic. It isn't coincidence. It's the natural rhythm of a universe that has been waiting for you to wake up to its signals. When your mind, emotions, and actions fall into coherence, reality stops resisting you. It starts responding. The world becomes softer, more malleable, more fluid, almost as if a hidden intelligence is quietly rearranging the pieces the moment you shift your internal state. You start noticing how your energy precedes your outcomes. Anger attracts more friction. Clarity attracts solutions. Gratitude opens doors. Confidence pulls timelines toward you that once felt impossibly far away. Every thought becomes a frequency. Every belief becomes a command. Every emotion becomes a bridge between what you are and what you are destined to become. This is where most people misunderstand the process. They chase outcomes with anxious energy, forcing results, thinking effort alone is the engine of creation. But creation doesn't respond to force, only to alignment. When you shift your inner vibration, external reality reorganizes itself in ways you could never have predicted. Through logic alone, it's not about trying harder. It's about tuning deeper. And the deeper you tune, the less you depend on the approval, guidance, or validation of the outside world. You stop needing signs because you become the sign. Your presence itself becomes a message to the universe. I am ready. I am aligned. I am stepping into the version of me that already exists on a higher timeline. That is the moment everything accelerates. That is when the impossible starts behaving like the inevitable. There comes a phase in your transformation where the old version of you doesn't just fade, it actively tries to pull you back. Not because it's powerful, but because it's familiar. The mind clings to what it knows. Even if what it knows is the very thing holding you back, you feel the tension between who you were and who you're becoming. Like standing with one foot in an old timeline and the other in a doorway that leads into something entirely new. This in-between space is uncomfortable, but it's sacred. It's where your rebirth actually begins. You start noticing the subtle ways the universe tests your commitment. Old habits resurface, old triggers reappear. Old people show up with the same energy you're trying to outgrow, not as signs of failure, but as checkpoints. As if the universe is gently asking, are you sure you want to leave this version of yourself behind? And each time you choose differently, You rewrite the code of your reality. You collapse entire timelines that no longer match your evolution. This is the stage where healing stops being a theory and becomes a choice. Where discipline stops feeling heavy and becomes a form of self-respect. Where you stop negotiating with your lower self and start honoring the identity of the person you are stepping into. You begin to understand that every breakthrough demands a breakdown, not as punishment but as purification. The universe removes what cannot follow you into your next chapter, sometimes gently, sometimes abruptly, but always with precision. And slowly you feel the shift. The noise inside you quiets. The past loses its grip. The patterns that once controlled you lose their charge. You start waking up with a sense of direction that feels less like ambition and more like destiny. You no longer chase alignment, you embody it. You no longer beg for signs, you recognize you are the one generating them. And as this inner clarity deepens, reality begins to crystallize around your new frequency. What once felt distant starts orbiting closer. What once seemed impossible becomes the next logical step. You don't just step into a new timeline, you become the vibration that pulls it toward you. There is a moment in your evolution when you realize you were never waiting for the universe. The universe was waiting for you. Waiting for you to stop dimming yourself. Waiting for you to stop apologizing for your power. Waiting for you to finally believe in the version of yourself that it already knew you could become. And the moment you step into that belief, everything shifts with almost eerie synchronicity. Opportunities appear faster. Support shows up out of nowhere. People who align with your path start crossing it as if drawn by magnetism. It's not luck. It's resonance. This is the stage where your energy becomes your strategy. Your frequency becomes your compass. You stop forcing outcomes because you finally understand that what belongs to you isn't earned through struggle. It's attracted through alignment. You start working with the universe instead of wrestling against it. And in that cooperation, life stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a conversation. Every event, every intuition, every encounter carries a message specifically coded for your growth. You begin to sense the subtle orchestration behind what you once called coincidences. The right idea hits at the right time. The right person calls at the exact moment you think of them. Doors open with no logical explanation. It feels almost supernatural. But it's not. It's simply what happens when your inner world stops contradicting your outer desires. When your subconscious finally matches the future you're trying to walk into. The universe doesn't respond to your wishes. It responds to your frequency. And as you continue to rise, you realize the journey was never about becoming someone new. It was about remembering who you were before fear shaped you, before doubt shrank you, before the world convinced you to play small. You weren't meant to fit into the old timeline. You were meant to outgrow it so completely that returning becomes impossible. And in that moment of realization, the universe shifts its entire architecture around your new identity. Possibilities expand, limits dissolve, and life begins to meet you at the level of your truth rather than your wounds. You finally see it clearly. You're not just moving toward your destiny, you're activating it. There comes a point when your old life stops collapsing, slowly, and starts collapsing all at once. Not because something is going wrong, but because everything is finally going right. The timeline you've been outgrowing can't hold your frequency anymore. So it begins to break apart in ways that feel sudden but were actually inevitable. People who were once central drift to the edges. Habits you clung to begin to feel foreign. Desires that once defined you lose their meaning. And instead of resisting, you feel an inner calm that says, let it fall. I'm not who I used to be. This is the moment when the universe removes your safety net so you can discover your wings. Not out of cruelty, but out of certainty. It knows you're ready long before you admit it. So it starts stripping away the illusions you've mistaken for identity, the distractions, the false stories, the emotional anchors that kept you predictable, small, and stuck. You're no longer aligned with the version of yourself that tolerated mediocrity, carried old guilt, or settled for almost. You've upgraded your inner architecture and life is simply adjusting to match it. In this phase, isolation becomes initiation, silence becomes guidance, stillness becomes revelation. You start hearing truths that were always inside you but were drowned out by noise, expectations, and fear. You realize that the universe doesn't speak in thunder, and it whispers through intuition. And the more you listen, the more you understand that nothing in your life was random. Every loss created space. Every delay created alignment. Every ending pointed you toward a beginning you weren't ready for at the time. And then something shifts. You stop wanting the past to make sense and start wanting the future to unfold. You stop replaying old timelines and start generating new ones. Your energy becomes clearer, sharper, more intentional. You attract differently. You respond differently. You choose differently. Not from trauma, but from clarity. And that single shift changes everything. Because when your inner world evolves, your outer world has no choice but to follow. This is the true turning point. The moment you stop trying to go back and finally decide to move forward. There's a phase in your evolution where you begin to sense the future before it arrives. Not through logic, but through vibration. You feel a subtle pull, a quiet certainty, a magnetic knowing that something bigger is forming around you. Even when nothing in your outer reality has shifted yet, your inner world already knows. Your body feels lighter, your intuition feels louder, your mind stops fighting you and starts following you. It's like the universe updates your internal software before it updates your external circumstances. This is where trust becomes your superpower. Not blind faith, but energetic intelligence. You stop asking, when will it happen? And start asking, how can I align with it more deeply? You begin to understand that manifestation isn't about forcing outcomes. It's about becoming the version of yourself who naturally attracts them. You shed behaviors that drain you. You let go of timelines that limit you. You detach from outcomes that dilute your frequency. And with every release, your energetic field becomes more precise, more refined, more powerful. In this space, your intuition sharpens into something almost prophetic. You can feel which rooms you no longer belong in the moment you step into them. You can sense which opportunities are aligned before words are even exchanged. You recognize who is meant for your future and who only fits your past. It's not judgment, it's clarity. The clearer your energy becomes, the easier it is to see the truth behind people, situations, and intentions. You stop taking things personally because you finally see them energetically. And then, without warning, life starts responding to you with a precision that feels supernatural. Random encounters turn into pivotal moments. A single conversation shifts your direction. A message arrives at the exact second your doubt peaks. Synchronicities cluster so closely together that you can't deny the pattern anymore. You realize you're not just moving through life. You're co-creating it in real time. Every thought, every emotion, every belief is shaping the timeline unfolding in front of you. This is the beginning of conscious creation. The moment you stop living by default and start living by design, you begin to understand that the universe doesn't need your planning, your effort, or your worry. It only needs your alignment. And alignment isn't something you perform once and forget. It's a practice, a lifestyle, a devotion to returning again and again to your highest frequency. Every choice, every thought, every emotion is a calibration. Every moment you feel gratitude instead of lack, clarity instead of confusion, trust instead of doubt. You are strengthening the energetic signal that calls your desires into reality. Manifestation is not external. It is internal. It begins with you before it shows up in the world. This is the place where ordinary actions become extraordinary. Walking down the street becomes a practice of presence. Conversations become exercises in resonance. Your intentions carry weight because your energy carries them. Even the simplest decisions ripple through the quantum field, not by force but by fidelity to who you've chosen to be. You are no longer chasing. You are no longer waiting. You are embodying the outcome, and in doing so, the universe is compelled to reflect it back. And here's the subtlety most people miss. You don't need dramatic breakthroughs or spectacular signs to know it's working. The proof lies in the ordinary and the quiet shifts. A conversation that turns out to be exactly what you needed. A moment of clarity that reshapes your next step. A small victory that feels bigger than it should. These are the whispers of the field responding to your coherence. Not because you demanded it, but because you became the signal it cannot resist. This is where the real power lives, and in the subtle, in the steady, in the unwavering practice of becoming the version of yourself that already has what you desire. The outer world only mirrors the inner reality you stabilize. And when your inner world becomes unshakable, your outer world must align. You stop negotiating with timelines. You stop arguing with outcomes. You stop chasing what is already yours energetically. Everything you desire begins to flow toward you naturally, effortlessly, inevitably, simply because you've become the frequency it cannot ignore. And once you step fully into this understanding, you realize the game has changed forever. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstance. You are no longer waiting for the right moment. You are no longer asking for permission. You are the gravity that pulls your reality toward you. You reach a stage where waiting fades entirely. The concept of someday loses its grip, because you understand that the reality you desire already exists vibrationally, and your only task is to embody it now. There's no need to push, no need to hustle, no need to plead for proof. You stop performing for the universe and start resonating from a place of certainty. Every thought, every feeling, every action aligns naturally with the version of yourself who is already living that life. You stop trying to get there and instead you become it. That's when the magic truly begins. At this point, you notice the quiet but undeniable signals of alignment. People appear at the perfect moment. Opportunities seem to manifest out of nowhere. The timing of events feels orchestrated. These aren't coincidences. They are the natural response of a universe that mirrors coherent energy. When you consistently inhabit your desired frequency, reality begins bending around it. Time itself seems to accelerate. Obstacles soften or disappear entirely. The field no longer resists you. It cooperates. What once seemed distant becomes tangible. What once felt impossible becomes inevitable. The key is consistency, not perfection. You may falter, doubt, or drift temporarily, but every return to alignment strengthens the signal. Every moment you embody trust instead of fear, gratitude instead of anxiety, presence instead of distraction. You are rewriting the template of your future. Manifestation is no longer external. It's a living extension of your state of being. And when you stabilize this vibration, the world reorganizes itself to match it. You are no longer chasing reality, you are anchoring it. The difference between those who struggle and those who flow effortlessly lies in understanding this. Manifestation is not about asking for something you lack. It's about stepping into the person who naturally has it. The moment you inhabit that state fully, the universe responds automatically. You stop negotiating with circumstances. You stop seeking validation from outcomes. You stop fearing scarcity. Every cell of your body remembers the reality you've chosen, and the field responds accordingly. This is why quantum manifestation feels effortless once you understand it. Not because it bypasses physics, but because it aligns with it. You are not fighting reality. You are tuning to it. You are not begging life to deliver. You are becoming the version of you that attracts it. And when that happens, everything shifts, not gradually, but as if the universe itself is holding its breath, waiting for your next choice, your next alignment, your next moment of coherence. There is a profound shift when you realize that manifestation isn't about acquiring, it's about remembering. Every timeline, every version of your life already exists in the quantum field. You are not creating it from scratch. You are collapsing into it through resonance. Your job is not to chase, convince, or struggle. It is to stabilize your vibration to match the reality that is already waiting for you. When your internal state aligns, external circumstances begin to follow naturally. The universe doesn't deliver what you want. It mirrors who you are being. At this stage, the field begins to speak to you in subtle, unmistakable ways. You notice patterns, nudges, and synchronicities that previously seemed like coincidences. A conversation, a text, an opportunity, or even a fleeting thought can suddenly become the pivot point that shifts everything. These are confirmations that your energy is coherent, that your signal is being received. You start recognizing that manifestation is less about action and more about calibration, tuning yourself until your energy matches the frequency of the life you intend to live. The most challenging part for many is letting go of the need to prove it. The mind constantly wants evidence. The ego craves control. But in quantum terms, evidence comes after alignment, not before. The field responds to certainty, not desperation. You learn to operate from a state of knowing, not hoping. You stop reacting to what is and start embodying what already exists vibrationally. The future you desire doesn't wait for your permission. It waits for your coherence. Consistency is your superpower. Each return to alignment, each moment you embody gratitude, presence, and trust reinforces your frequency. Every decision, no matter how small, becomes a declaration of who you are becoming. You walk, breathe, speak, and act as the version of yourself that already lives the reality you desire. And as this alignment deepens, the world naturally mirrors it back. Doors open effortlessly, opportunities arise seemingly out of nowhere, and the people, circumstances, and ideas that resonate with your new vibration appear as if drawn magnetically. This is the turning point where you stop chasing your desires and start living them. The universe stops feeling distant and starts feeling responsive. You realize the life you wanted wasn't out there waiting, it has been waiting for you to remember who you truly are. Your power lies in your coherence, and once you embody it, the quantum field obeys. At this stage, you begin to notice a profound difference in how you experience life. The constant tension, the anxious striving, the endless doing that once dominated your days, they all begin to dissolve. You stop measuring your worth by outcomes and start measuring it by alignment. You no longer chase what you want, you radiate it. Your presence itself becomes magnetic, pulling circumstances, people, and opportunities toward you without effort. You realize that every thought, every feeling, every breath is not just personal, it is a broadcast into the field, a signal shaping reality itself. You also begin to see the subtle patterns in your daily experiences. Small synchronistic events, once easy to dismiss, now appear as signposts confirming that you are in resonance. A chance conversation delivers the exact insight you need. An unexpected opportunity aligns perfectly with your desires. Even the seemingly mundane events carry meaning, reflecting your internal state. This is the quiet yet undeniable feedback of a field responding to coherent energy. You no longer wait for miracles, because you recognize that the miraculous is simply the natural outcome of energetic alignment. The real challenge here is patience and trust. The mind wants instant proof. The ego wants control. But the quantum field responds only to sustained coherence, not sporadic effort. It is your repeated return to alignment, your daily practice of embodying gratitude, trust, clarity, and presence that strengthens your energetic signature. With every moment of consistency, the universe reorganizes around you, moving in ways that make previously impossible scenarios inevitable. You start to see that life itself is a reflection of your internal reality. And when you maintain your inner state, the outer world naturally adjusts. Eventually, you reach a point where fear and doubt lose their power. You stop negotiating with timelines. You stop seeking validation from the outside. You stop measuring your progress against anyone else. Your reality begins to flow effortlessly toward you, because your vibration has become unshakable. You have become the gravity that pulls your desires into form. Life no longer feels like a struggle, a chase, or a waiting game. It feels like creation itself, fluid, responsive, and aligned with the highest version of yourself. This is where the shift moves from theory into lived experience. You are no longer imagining a better future. You are inhabiting it fully, moment by moment, breath by breath, heartbeat by heartbeat. At this point, you start to realize that waiting is an illusion. The life you desire isn't somewhere down the road, it's vibrationally present, adjacent and accessible now. Every longing, every goal, every dream is already encoded in the quantum field. Your only task is to match the frequency, to embody the emotional, mental, and energetic state of the person who already lives that reality. This is not about forcing change or pushing outcomes. It's about becoming the version of yourself that naturally aligns with your desires. When your inner world stabilizes, your outer world is compelled to follow. You begin to observe the subtle mechanics of manifestation. Thoughts alone are not enough. Feelings alone are not enough. Alignment arises when both integrate, when your mind, emotions, and body speak the same language. You realize that chasing or trying harder only creates resistance. Urgency, fear, and doubt broadcast discordant signals, keeping you tethered to old timelines. True power comes from stillness, clarity, and the unwavering practice of returning to coherence. This is how the wave function collapses, not by effort, but by resonance. Gradually, life starts reflecting your new energetic blueprint. Opportunities appear without effort. Relationships, projects, and experiences gravitate toward you naturally. Even the world itself seems to rearrange to accommodate your higher vibration. You recognize these synchronicities as confirmations that your signal is strong. Your frequency is coherent and your alignment is undeniable. Every small step of embodiment compounds, creating momentum that carries you into the life you've been tuning to all along. And then comes the profound realization: manifestation is not a future event. It is a present experience. The outer world mirrors the inner state. You no longer wait for external confirmation. You are the confirmation. Every breath, every thought, every action is a declaration of the reality you inhabit. The universe doesn't resist. It flows, it aligns. It mirrors back exactly who you are being. When you live from this state consistently, the impossible becomes inevitable, and the miraculous becomes ordinary. You are no longer asking for reality to change. You are the signal that reshapes it. You begin to understand that manifestation is not a transaction. It is a conversation. The universe isn't a vending machine where you insert effort and receive outcomes. It responds to the coherence of your being, the clarity of your energy, and the alignment of your emotions and intentions. When your inner state resonates with the reality you desire, life doesn't just nudge you, it begins to conspire in your favor. You notice doors opening that you didn't even see, people appearing who carry exactly what you need, and circumstances aligning with a precision that feels almost miraculous. This is not luck. It is the natural consequence of energetic integrity. The subtlety lies in maintaining consistency. You don't have to perform perfectly, but you must return repeatedly to your aligned state. Every time you embody gratitude, trust, and presence, you strengthen your frequency. Every moment you resist fear, doubt, or distraction, you reinforce the signal that the field responds to. Your energy becomes a gravitational force, not through struggle or effort, but through coherent being. You are no longer chasing life. Life begins to chase you. You are no longer waiting for evidence. You become the evidence. And with this understanding, the world itself seems to bend. Time itself feels more fluid, and opportunities arrive effortlessly, naturally and inevitably. You realize that the power of manifestation is quiet, subtle, and profound. It doesn't announce itself with drama or spectacle. It appears in the ordinary moments, a sudden clarity, a shift in your breath, a deep sense of knowing that your desire is already here. It whispers, not shouts. And the more you attune to this whisper, the more it grows louder, until you no longer need reminders from the outside world. You have become a node of resonance, a living signal broadcasting coherence into the field. The universe doesn't question it. It mirrors it. And here's the most transformative insight. You don't need to wait for external change. You don't need to hustle, force, or chase. Your task is simple, yet profound. Stabilize the version of yourself that already lives your desire. Walk, breathe, speak, and act as that version. The outer world is not the teacher, it is the mirror. When your inner state is aligned, when your frequency is coherent, the world inevitably reorganizes itself to reflect it. You are no longer manifesting from scarcity, fear, or urgency. You are manifesting from certainty, presence, and resonance. You have become the gravity that pulls your desires into reality. This is the moment of mastery, where everything you've learned becomes lived reality. You realize that the life you've been chasing has never been out there. It has always existed as a potential, waiting for you to match it vibrationally. You don't wait for signs, confirmations, or external validation anymore. You become the signal. Your energy is coherent, your frequency is aligned, and your presence radiates certainty. Every step you take, every breath you draw, every choice you make is an act of embodiment. You are no longer negotiating with reality. You are the gravity that pulls it toward you. From here, manifestation is effortless. You understand that resistance only arises when you contradict yourself internally. Fear, doubt, and urgency are distractions that weaken your signal. When you release them, the field responds instantaneously. Opportunities, synchronicities, and intuitive nudges appear naturally, as if life itself is bending to honor the alignment you've chosen. You stop chasing, struggling, or trying to make it happen. You are no longer asking the universe for permission. You are the authority of your own reality, and everything flows to match the version of yourself you've stabilized. The truth is simple. Manifestation is not about doing more. It's about being more. It's about embodying the emotional, mental, and energetic state of the person who already lives the life you desire. That version of you is already here, already real, already waiting. And the moment you choose to step fully into that frequency, the quantum field responds. You collapse timelines, dissolve separation, and bring the possible into the present. You become a co-creator in the purest sense, not by effort, but by resonance. So stop chasing, stop waiting, stop asking. Begin living as the version of yourself who already has what you desire. Walk, breathe, speak, and act from that state. Every moment you maintain coherence, you strengthen your signal. Every moment you embody trust, gratitude, and certainty, the universe reorganizes itself in alignment with your reality. You are not manifesting the future, you are becoming it. And in this state, something miraculous happens. Life no longer feels like a battle. It flows, it bends, it aligns. Every desire, every dream, every potential reality that belongs to you arrives naturally, effortlessly, inevitably, because you are no longer chasing. You are the signal and the universe answers.